What I've learned the previous years is that the biggest and most important thing you can do as a leader, but also as an entrepreneur or a colleague or a team member, is acknowledging that you don't know everything.
You are about to hear from Cynthia de Jager, a global expert in psychological safety and intercultural collaboration. In this episode, she shares the messy, overlooked moments that make or break high performing teams, especially when things go wrong. If you've ever questioned how to lead through pressure, build trust across cultures, or create a team that speaks up before things fall apart, this one is for you. This is The Ugly Face, where we unpack what happens after the hype. If you're into real talk on burnout, pivots, and leadership struggles, hit follow so you don't miss what's next. With that, I bring you Cynthia de Jager. Let her introduce herself.
Great, thank you, Ollie. I'm so happy to be here, and I feel privileged to be part of the Ugly Face.
Yeah.
And actually, that's already a beautiful link to what I do in the daily life, because I'm an expert in psychological safety and also an expert in international and intercultural collaboration, meaning that building a psychological safe environment is already a challenge. But when we are working with different cultures and nationalities, there's an extra challenge. And psychological safety is all about showing your real face and your ugly face and putting your mask off. Because what I've learned the previous years is that the biggest and most important thing you can do as a leader, but also as an entrepreneur or a colleague or a team member, is acknowledging that you don't know everything. So that means you have to acknowledge there's a gap and you need other information or expertise to help you. So acknowledging and sharing that you don't know everything. So not putting your beautiful face, but your ugly face, and being candid about it. That's one of the most important things to create psychological safety and growth. But sorry, already going too deep. That's my pitfall. Expert in two fields, and I am lucky to have traveled to a lot of beautiful countries and got connected with a lot of beautiful cultures in the world. So during my international swimming career and after that working for different corporates, I realized we have to put more effort in collaboration with different cultures and nationalities, because we have so many assumptions about working together. And also me, I traveled a lot. I made a lot of wrong assumptions when working together with people from different cultures. And you can, not easy, but quite easy, you could prevent that, to be more aware of your own cultural bias and create cultural bridges. And if you know, for example, how to build trust, or how to deal with feedback when you're working with different people for different cultures, it also benefits towards a more psychological safe environment. So yeah, intercultural working and psychological safety, and especially in this world, we're working more and more remote and together. It is two expertise that are very linked together. So I'm happy to do that. I'm based in the Netherlands right now. I'm 45 years old, living with my husband and two stepdaughters. And I always say, when I'm a big girl, I'm going to move to Africa. Because
I love
that
that.
is where I belong. But I'm not a big girl yet.
I love that. Did you, because this is a very interesting combination of, although, like you said, aligned skills, but still from two different domains. Did you yourself had an ugly phase in your journey? Phases in PHASE. Like, was it a straight line, as in you just decided, okay, this is what I like, this is what this is my calling, and boom, you just bulldozer ahead? Or was it more like woohoo, and you just kind of found it through trial and error?
It is absolutely the last one, trial and error. And I think that's also the most important route to learn, because when the road is smooth, it's maybe a cliche, how we call it in French. but then you don't learn. But it was also organic route. Like I said, I started as an international athlete. I learned from traveling. I learned from different cultures, and so on. I started working in a corporate environment, and then after a couple of years, started working with an international team, and I saw something extra was needed to get them in a safe environment and to create high performing teams. So I started to learn more about intercultural performance. So I got trained by Erin Meyer, Professor Erin Meyer, for example. And one way leads to another. So you're more and more focused on those kind of topics when you're training people, when you're leading transformations. And because I was always linked to the world of sports, I also have quite some assignments in the sports. There was a phase there in the Netherlands, but also worldwide, a lot of cases around transgressive behaviors in sport and unsafe environments for young athletes. So I learned that creating a safe environment in high pressure and high performance environments became more and more important. So that, yeah, organically was linked to my work in international fields. So it wasn't a big bang. It was actually a route about learning and observing to see what teams and what people really need to thrive and to perform. And also talking about the ugly phase, I also learned because I made mistakes. I made wrong assumptions about working together with other cultures because I thought, oh,
Can you
I try.
can you give us a concrete example, because I think this will be
Yeah,
very like
I
will bring it
will.
down to earth.
Yeah, I worked internationally already quite some time, and I started with an assignment in Brussels, which is just, in my case, 150 k's from the place where I live in the Netherlands. So I thought, oh, that will be easy, right? We speak the same language, we share borders, we look quite the same, so no difficulties. It's not a big culture clash. And at day one, I was there at the office, and one of my colleagues, female colleagues, she asked me, "Do you want a cup of coffee?" And in the Netherlands, I was used to respond by, "Oh, thank you. Can you get me a cappuccino?" And in a lot of offices in the Netherlands, colleagues come, they often use a tray and they go just pass all the, what do you want to drink? So like a waitress or a waiter, you just, or you're picking the orders and you're walking to the coffee machine and you come back with a tray of drinks. So I said to her, okay, thank you. Can I have a cappuccino? And I really wanted to thank her and give her my most beautiful smile, most beautiful face. And I was really happy with her gesture. But she responded by looking quite angry and frustrated to me. So I thought, okay, maybe I did something wrong. A couple of days later, I learned from another colleague that in Brussels and also a little bit the French culture, but also the Belgian culture, when a colleague is asking you for a cup of coffee, that is actually an invitation to walk together to the coffee machine or walk together to the espresso bar and getting to know each other and
Oh
having a conversation.
wow. Okay.
And all I did was just blocking
Like
her and say,
shutting
"Oh,
her off,
get
yeah.
me a cappuccino." Yeah. And she
Oh,
thought I wanted to get to know Cynthia. And when I learned that lesson, and to be completely candid, I don't think we could, it was never that connection was never rebuilt. So it was always, I worked there for almost a year. It was never, I could never get a
I
really
see.
good connection with her. So
Because you
very
only get one chance at making the first impression, right?
exactly. And and I often explain this example because it's so small and it seems so not valuable and important, but
Right.
it can harm a whole connection or collaboration. And that was the moment I thought, okay, even I, with all my international knowledge, and I worked in several countries and I traveled a lot, even I can easily make such a mistake because it's not written in the air. It's in the fine details you don't grasp. So that was for me a very ugly face example of just yeah jumping into the pitfall of thinking that you already know.
I think I immediately have this question. I mean, probably there is no perfect answer to that, but how can you avoid making such mistakes? Obviously, outside of just studying all the available cultures, because we know it's impossible.
That's a good one because, of course, you can learn that when you travel to Belgium. You can use Erin Meyer's culture map and see, okay, what are the differences in giving feedback compared to my own culture, or in communicating or decision making process. And I think the most important, it happens on the spot, so it comes with the dialogue and do we understand each other. Um, what I've learned, and I'm Dutch, so that means I'm quite direct in the way of communicating. And for me, it's quite easy to respond immediately after you
Mm-hmm.
ask something.
Mm-hmm.
So my speaking pattern is quite vivid, and I learned actually to stay silent more, and that means only asking questions and listening instead of just responding and saying, "Oh, just give me a cappuccino," or assuming that a person means something, and then just go along with your story or your explanation. So, asking clarification questions, have a broader dialogue about the perspectives of people instead of just, you know, going to the task or having a conversation about a small question. And once again, just in Dutch, I always say it's the power of shutting up to shut up.
I love that.
Because other people will feel more safe to speak up when when they feel the freedom to speak up. So when you're only talking,
Exactly.
the other person doesn't feel the freedom to speak up.
Exactly. I've also heard this statistic that most of the, I guess they call them super communicators, were actually super listeners in the first place. They were probably even likely introverted first, and they were listening, 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 and asking questions. And that actually set up the stage for them to be good communicators afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, I think in coaching, it's often said good coaching is 80% listening and 20% talking. And it's also listening not only with your ears but also with your eyes. So, for example, a lot of cultures for example, Japan, a lot of non-verbal communication. So you have to pay attention to how someone looks at the eyes, how they are, are they not looking at you, or are they looking you into in the eyes? Other non-verbal symbols, making for example, by hands. So you have to pay attention to what not has been said as well, and read the air and feel what a person is trying to say instead of only listening to the words. And that's that requires a lot of attention.
Oh, absolutely. And I think attention is the big problem nowadays. I mean, especially I think when we have group meetings on screen, it's super hard to focus unless you're speaking yourself. Like I'm guilty of it. I usually try to put like my devices with outside of my reach so I can actually just look on the screen. I try closing everything else so I have the least distractions. I used to pride myself on what I thought was multitasking, as in I'm listening to the meeting, but at the same time I'm doing something else. I'm like, I'm optimizing. Hell no, no. The human brain is incapable physically of multitasking. It actually even takes us, I can't remember what the exact time is, but some amount of time to switch between tasks, as in you're either listening or you're doing something else. And if you're doing two at the same time, it means that you're, excuse my French, half-assing both of them, really.
Yeah, you're so right. And that is, I often think it's an interesting discussion about um, the balance working from home and working remote, and working together physically and have a connection with each other. I believe there are a lot of people saying that, okay, just working from home, it's perfect for them. But I think in the end, when it comes to creating value and safe environments and a real strong connection and trust in a team, you have to see each other because it's not only in the two dimensions. And it's so I'm a real ambassador of at least hybrid way of working, and not only remote, because it's all about.
I absolutely agree. I would like to, because, so as I said, I would like to provide some practical information about the ugly phase. And I think big part of it when it comes to already more established big organizations is when they fail to build relationship within the team and with the clients. How could the principles and frameworks of psychological safety help them not make those mistakes in building the relationships?
Oh, that's a good. I think, building a relationship, long-term relationships is about being seen as a trusted advisor. You are an advisor that people trust their people and they trust their secrets with you. So practicing what you preach is very important. And that means that if if you're trying to have a connection with a prospect or potential client, for example, then you already have to show how important it is and how beneficial it is to create a safe environment. So, and that means that all the things that you can apply to create a safe environment in team sessions, you have to do that upfront as well, or when you're standing at the coffee corner with a person, and then you're authentic, because then it's not a show or just a trick that you do when giving a training, for example. So you have to do it consistently in every connection you make.
I was just gonna ask because I'm sure this is probably the question that comes to everyone's mind. How do you draw the line between the real psychological safety and just woke culture? Because I think there is some fine line in there, right? I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, beautiful question. And I think one of the important things is framing the work. And that is what I've learned from Amy Edmondson. I'm in my job and applying the work of Amy Edmondson because I was trained in her philosophy. And building psychological safety is, according to Amy Edmondson, is three steps. And the first step is framing the work. And that means you have to decide with each other on which topics and which moments you need psychological safety, because it's about you and I or a team heading towards the biggest performance or preventing mistakes or make sure there are no risks. And that means we have to share all the information that is needed with each other based on a certain topic and a certain moment in a certain meeting. That doesn't mean you can easily say everything to each other, because I can the whole day I can say, "Oh, Ollie, I really love your green sweater. It's so beautiful." And then we're so, friendly and nice, but it's not beneficial to our work. So it's psychological safety is not about being nice all the time. It's about very explicit and okay, we in order to create something together or to have success together, we need to have a candid conversation and have all the information on the table. Um, and on the other hand, you don't. It's not about being nice. And on the other hand, a psychological safe environment is also not that you just can say anything to everybody. I cannot say, or I can say, but that's not one official. I really hate your green sweater, or I didn't like what you said to me 4 weeks ago, because it's not related to the task that you have to do with each other. So once again, it's important to frame, because otherwise you get a world where indeed an avocado can yell to a banana and and you get a lot of reactions. Oh yeah, but can't we say anything anymore in this place? Or do we have to be friendly the whole time? Is it about a performance-driven organization, especially in the world of sports? Yeah, it still is. You don't have to be friendly, and you certainly are not allowed to say everything, but you have to frame it.
I like that. So basically, drawing a line between friendly and respectful, and I think considering other person's, I guess, preferences and boundaries. Would that be a nice way to summarize it?
Amy Edmondson always says it as permission to candor. So you have to be
Ooh,
candid
okay.
about something. Uh,
But not
we need,
disrespectful.
not of course not disrespectful, but also you don't have to be candid about everything, because that it isn't any value that I'm just, you know. saying out loud that I don't like your earrings. That's not important.
And I think what I have noticed today is that there are two like radical camps in this area. There are some people who are just holding back in a way that they're always trying to be nice, as in, no, 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 I'm just not gonna say anything. And then there are others who are like super loud, and I'm like, what? And I'm not talking about social media, right? I'm talking about people within organizations. And it as I mean, as somebody who's lived in three countries by now, I've definitely sometimes struggled with it myself, because jumping from the Russian culture to the US culture, now to French culture, I've definitely have like a fusion of everything at this point. So sometimes it's hard for me to set boundaries for myself, as in, but the boundaries for others, as in like, how can I talk to that person? Because I definitely go a little bit like this, so I can be like super nice and mellow and what's etc. But then there will be parts when I'll be like, just like, woof, woof.
When it's needed and when it's beneficial and when
I
it's
like that
not it's
angle.
yeah,
Beneficial, I think, is the key word.
and
Like,
it's
is it gonna
predictable.
benefit?
Yeah, because when we you have to make like say working agreements. And then you discuss with each other, uh, if you and I were in a team, then we discuss each other, okay, if this happens, then Olia, will just, do this, but just guys, know that I do this because I want to reach our goals. It's not personal. It's not that I don't like you. It's not that I want to be harsh, and then it makes it predictable instead of them people thinking, "Oh, what is she doing? Why is she doing it? Doesn't she like me? Is there something? Oh, you see, she's not nice. I thought she was nice, but she's not nice." So it's about predictable behavior.
That is beneficial for some
Yeah,
common goal.
yeah. And of course, we all have in every system we have a different role.
Sure.
So for me as well, in my family, I have a different role than in a group of friends or when I'm giving training. You're always adapting your own role in which team or which setting you. So one day you're just very introvert, and the other day you can shout. But it's also because of the system.
That makes sense. Let me ask you this question, because um, there is obviously, I think, a lot of similarities when it comes to work relationship versus personal relationship. And what I've learned is that in personal relationship, it's very important to understand each other's love language, as in like, how do you prefer for me to express my love, etc. Because obviously we'll have different preferences. Do you think this is important in the work environment, and less of maybe like the love language, but more so feedback and like how you communicate? I think this is the topic that is not at all broadly discussed. Like, there should be a moment in every person onboarding where they can share, this is how I would like to receive feedback.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think when you look at intercultural teams, you also see that one of the dimensions that we can explore is the way we give feedback. And it's a very important dimension when it comes to collaboration, but also trust, because for me as a Dutch person, I have the value system of honesty. So when I give feedback to you, that I will do that in a candid way. And that's a way for me to say, I fully trust you. I fully trust our relationship that I can say anything to you. At the other hand, you could think, oh my God, Cynthia, that's quite harsh. I don't feel any trust at all. So your value system is different than mine. So knowing that from each other and acknowledging that, and if you are in a team, just plotting on the dimension to see, okay, what kind of um, initial ways we have to give and to receive feedback, we can learn how to adapt our own feedback style. So and that's very important, because a lot of people, and especially when it comes to feedback, and Dutch people, you might hear them saying quite sometimes is, yeah, we just Dutch, we're giving direct feedback. That's okay. we don't harm, and then the next time they do it in the same way, and the next time they do it in the same way. So only saying you mean the right thing is not enough. You have to adapt your way of communicating and feedback in order to let the other person feel safe, and that's then making agreements with each other.
How does how can one learn or rather understand and learn more about their own value system? Because I think, say you have 10 people in the room and you ask them what their values are, I can bet my money on the fact that at least half of them would know what to say. Is there a way for somebody to just kind of like dig in and understand and be more aware of them?
Yeah. There are several ways. Depends on the on the culture and the nationality, of course. Um, what um what I often do is it is very difficult to share your own values if you don't compare it with others. So you only know your true value when you see the others. And that, yeah, for example, I could easily say, okay, my value is integrity. But when I see that another person has much more integrity, then I can realize, oh, is that my real value? Or is that just me saying that? And because I believe other persons are like that, and then they appreciate me more. So what I often do is an exercise in a team is that ask a couple of questions and I ask them to line up. And then obviously, the person with the lowest score for themselves is standing there, and the highest score for themselves is standing there. And our pitfall is just to stand in just you plot yourself and stand in a line and think, okay, when it comes to integrity, I'm a 7. And then I'm asking, okay, you're you're standing here as a 7, and your colleague, I just named Mike. Mike is standing there. Why is there a difference? And then people go to talk about, okay, why do I think my integrity is 7, and why do Mike think his integrity is a 10? And then you have a dialogue about different
Mhm.
perspectives about, for example, a topic integrity. And then you see people shifting in the line and see, oh, maybe I'm not that strong when it comes to a certain value. Yeah. And what I often do as well is one of those questions is asking if it comes to the jewelry you have on today. So earrings, necklaces, all kinds of jewelry. Who has the most valuable in this group? And then most of the times people are going to stand in a line based on financial value. Oh, yeah, just I have an expensive ring or an expensive. And then you see a couple of people asking, okay, but are we talking about financial value or emotional value? And then you see a shift in, oh, yeah. And then they're going to, in a dialogue, and say, okay, but I'm standing here. My ring is maybe cheaper than yours, but I got it from my great grandmother. And it's already for decades in our family. And one of my important values, that is why I stand here, is, family. And then you have a dialogue on, okay, why are things important for you? And then you're going to explain that. And then you realize, okay, family is one of my most important values. So having a dialogue on those topics helps you to identify for yourself what is your biggest value, because just saying the beautiful values, that doesn't make any sense. You have to compare yourself with others. It doesn't mean you're better or less good than other people in the room. It is about identifier. Is this really my strongest value, or see I other persons that has much more importance in that value?
I like that example a lot because I worked with a coach to work through that, and it's been definitely helpful because he had me go through a couple of self-assessment tests. But when we started discussing it, I changed some of my answers because he gave me a completely different perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is sometimes our brains are so wired to give the right answer because we're wired like that. So we go to school, and then to middle school, and then to high school, and then we all learn to give the right answer.
That's
What's
true.
the right answer? Me. So our brain is wired when we hear a question. I have to give the right answer, but that is something different than what is the candid answer. And you need in-depth conversations and listening skills and good questions to find that out.
When it comes to companies attempting, let's maybe call it cultural transformation or cultural diversification, what are the most common mistakes that they could make on that journey?
I think the biggest mistake is saying that the aim of a culture change is creating psychological safety, because then it will, or better intercultural collaboration, because that will be just a beautiful phrase, but it's not linked to, for example, the business objectives. And before you know, especially in corporate worlds, people think, oh, yeah, well, that's an HR thing, or that's a well-being thing. That's not helping us. So you always have to focus on your main goal. So, for example, Boeing, their main goal is now making sure no planes are falling out of the air anymore, and therefore we need psychological safety to make sure that all people speak up when they see something is going wrong with building their planes. So I think the most common mistake is just making psychological safety a program or a project on itself. No, it's a very important means to an end. And if you don't link it to that, if you don't link it to a business case or something that you want to reach with each other, then it's going to flow away. Like, then it's another nice to have, and it's not working, and you get a lot of complaints, and before you know, it's gone.
I think from like a personal perspective, if say, I don't know, healthy eating, right? It's just one day you're like, oh, I want to eat healthier just because, I don't know, it's a trend, etc. Inevitably, you're going to fail on the journey because if it's not linked to some, I guess, bigger objective and bigger goal, it just becomes like a thing that you try here and there. And it's hard to keep up with it.
Exactly. Yeah, you always have to link it to it. It's doing something because you want to reach something.
I like that approach, putting the goal, like I guess the business organizational goal first to make it part of that journey rather than just like a box to check, right?
Yeah. And to be honest, remember, you were talking about the ugly face. That is also one of my biggest learnings in the previous years, because I was just trying to convince people and organizations and CEOs and managers. No, you have to pay attention to psychological safety, and you have to pay attention to a better intercultural connection in your company. And sometimes that worked, but a lot of times they were saying, yeah, nice to have. Maybe when we have some
Right.
offsite, we will do it. Nice lady, we will hire her for a presentation. But it's a little bit woke, so to say.
Exactly. It's just for, I don't know,
um,
marketing purposes, right? Or just to
yeah,
check the box. Yeah.
exactly. So that was I fell in that pitfall quite often. So I really had to learn to make the link in those kind of conversations. Okay, what are your business goals? What is your problem? What is your challenge? Okay, so you have to learn with each other and get all the information on the table together to reach that goal. And then finally, you're going to talk about psychological safety. So I think, to be completely candid, not saying the word psychological safety in the beginning is quite powerful, because it's still a little bit, scary words
Yeah, of
for
course.
big companies. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, since we brought up the ugly phase again,
I like it because it's an easy metaphor to come back to a candid conversation, right?
exactly. So I've definitely worked with quite a few startups that were going through a phase like that, and not to, discourage anybody or to talk badly about people that I work with, but I think most of the founders or the leadership team have actually failed to create a psychologically safe environment when companies were going through a rough patch, because I've noticed two trends. They were either undersharing or oversharing. And so both of these scenarios create enormous amount of anxiety and just like people were taking huge hits on their mental health. Do you have maybe a framework or an approach that you would recommend to companies going through like a challenging time for them to just create a more psychological safe environment for the employees? A practical example, they're nearing the end of the runway and there is obviously pressure from investors, pressure from everything. And this is where the founders, like I said, in my experience, they go either poof, like retaining all the information for themselves. They're not sharing anything because they're scared of what employees might think. Or they go too much like, whoa, welcome. I'm just totally naked in front of you. Da, 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 da. But like it's not the one or the other doesn't help people.
No, no, true. Understand it now better. Thank you for your explanation. One of the most powerful things you can do, no, the most powerful thing you can do as a leader and as a business owner or entrepreneur is acknowledging that you don't know everything. But when I'm using the methodology of Amy Edmondson, three phases. First phase is setting the stage. Second phase is invite participation. That means that you have to be humble and acknowledge that you don't know everything. You are a very good business owner and a very good entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean you know everything. So that means you have to acknowledge there is a gap in your knowledge. And if you are able to say that, you say to people, okay, please speak up because I need your information because I don't know everything. So you have to encourage people to speak up. So ask the right questions so they make sure they can answer. But also make sure you're not too much in their face because then people think, oh, he or she knows everything already and he's the big shiner and just yeah. So acknowledging that you don't know everything is the most critical factor to create psychological safety in order to that people speak up.
But
Just
there is also, I think, very fine. I've definitely seen it as well. Sometimes people don't understand where the line is between like saying, "Yeah, sure, that I give some my knowledge and I would like you to help me close them," versus going completely like, "You know what? You guys are the experts. You tell me what to do," as in like asking employees to completely set up the direction for the company. I've seen it, and honestly, that was like too much pressure for people.
and it's because it's not clear. So coming back to one of the other things I said, it's about framing. It's about scoping and framing on which topics and which context we need feedback from each other. That means you have to be very clear about, okay, there are a couple of things that are settled, and this I'm not sure yet, and I need your input. Or here's your autonomy. You can create whatever you want. But that's also next to things that are certain or fixed or certain frameworks. And if you say to your member or your colleagues in your company, uh, you just get you can design everything or finite everything, then it's going to be a blurry fake world. And in the beginning, they think, oh, a lot of creativity. But if that creativity is not framed into certain assignments, they go everywhere. And before you know, that person, that leader, or that entrepreneur is going to micromanage and say, "Yo, but that was not what I meant." Yeah, but you didn't told us. So I completely agree with you. Is autonomy is beautiful, but you need to have some alignment on certain topics because otherwise it will, and that will make people uncertain because they think, hey, you gave me the message if I can do everything, but then you're micromanaging me. So the next time I'm not going to do that anymore.
I'm not gonna try. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get
Yep.
anxious people,
Yep.
the silent quitters.
Exactly. 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 People who just shut down and gonna look for another opportunity.
So it's I completely agree with you. It's always about the balance. No, it's not only about being nice, it's also about being very clear about expectations and why you need certain information from people.
Exactly. To switch it more to the
Yeah.
positive topic.
Yeah.
Do you have maybe like an example that you're super proud of where you have helped an organization to just make a breakthrough? So maybe like a beautiful transformation. Doesn't have to be like, whoa, they overhauled their whole thing, but even maybe within a small team, because I think that would be like super uplifting and also practical for the listeners.
Yeah. Oh, I have several examples, but I think a very beautiful small example. I was helping or coaching a professional football club in the Netherlands last year. And as we all might know, it is still quite an old boys network. And that also means that, especially when you compare with other sports, it's still relatively a culture of we have all the knowledge,
Uh,
not much innovation when it comes to coaching and training, because once again it's a little bit the old network and old patterns. And I was asked by René, he was then head coach of one of those professional teams. He came to me and I said, I'm Cynthia, football coach. I'm a brilliant football coach. And he is still very good in what he do, but he was very he acknowledged the fact that he didn't know everything. So he had a help question and he said to me, okay, I have different players from different nationalities in my team. I want to help all the staff members to have perfect performance reviews with all those players. And I don't know how to teach them because I don't know how to have a good feedback session with a player from
okay.
Sweden, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And that saying that he said, that was already a beautiful example of showing, okay, I'm the leader when it comes to decision making. I'm the person that says who is going to be on the field in the next match, but still, I don't know everything. So we're going to learn with each other, and we're going to practice with each other and have a little bit uncomfortable situations because we have to train those conversations with each other. And Cynthia is going to help with us. And that created a beautiful a psychological safe environment. Also, players from different cultures in the team there to speak up and were saying, things about why they think it was difficult to perform or why they didn't feel at home yet. So that was from, let's say, more old style culture, the effort in saying, okay, I don't know, I need new expertise, and I'm willing to learn and to fail and show my ugly face. And they ended up fifth in the competition, which was the all-time highest ranking. So I think that is a very small but beautiful example of um, a system that is quite could be quite stubborn, but magic can create it when you're trying to be vulnerable and humble. So yeah, I think that's a nice example.
Because this goes back to what you brought up about the good leaders who say that I don't have all the answers
Yeah,
and they're
exactly,
willing to ask for help.
exactly. And it sounds so easy, but it's so
Exactly.
difficult for leaders to
Exactly.
say that. But it's the most powerful thing you can do. Absolutely.
Because, like you said, it's connected to vulnerability. It's just allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And definitely, I think some people just see it as like, oh, I'm a leader. I cannot be vulnerable. Like, I need to be, the it's always ready to go, blah, blah, blah. But I think it definitely doesn't set the a healthy dynamic within the team because then everybody's like, okay, I also need to be like a 200 all the time. And it's like, no, we're all human. Cannot be
Okay.
200 all the time.
And you can still be a great leader, but it's impossible to know everything about everything. And if that is the case, you don't need all the people in your organization
Exactly.
because then you know everything by yourself. So it's
Exactly.
fully logical that you don't know everything.
Exactly. I think we've had a very diverse discussion.
Yes,
And
thank you for that, and thank
and
you for your beautiful questions.
thank you for being here. We're getting to my favorite part, which is the segment that have not or has not changed through the rebrand, the homework. I know we've just
Homework.
yes, I know we discussed a lot of topics. It can be like so. It's a short assignment that you would give to the listeners that they can perform within a short amount of time. It could be something that we have discussed on the episode. It could be completely something unrelated. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm not sure if the people can they can only listen and they can't see it. But I have something.
There is a video available actually.
Okay, cool. For the
Hmm.
people that are seeing the video, you have now how do you say that?
Stick.
You are no, you have a 1 point ahead for the
Oh.
people that are only listening. Now I have a talking stick in my hand, and I learned that from certain African tribes. Um, and what they do is, for people that have been to Africa, you may saw a group of people underneath a tree and having a dialogue about a certain topic, and then you have a head of a tribe, and at the end of the dialogue, a decision is made. But that decision is not made before everyone could share his or her thoughts about the topic. So that dialogue could take 10 minutes, 2 days, or 3 weeks, or so on. And the most important thing is that everyone shares his or her opinion. Um, what is very powerful is to use that talking stick together uh, with your team, or maybe with someone else one on one, to create psychological safety, to make sure that you really listen to what the other person is saying. That means that when you have the talking stick in your hand, you're the person that can talk and share. The other person is not asking any questions, is not interfering, is not interrupting, is only listening. When you're done with talking, you just lay down the talking stick, and then it's the other person's turn. So just now the other person. But not before that other person has summarized what the first person said.
Oh,
So that
okay.
means, pretending you and I have that safe dialogue. You are sharing everything what is in your mind, your ideas. You're having the talking stick in your hand. I take over the talking stick, so it's now my turn to share. But I first have to summarize what you have been saying. That means I'm training my listening skills because our brain is wired. It's very natural. Everyone has it. If the other person is talking, I'm already thinking about how do I respond? What do I think about that? Do I agree? What will my answer be? And I'm not listening good enough to your story. And that simple trick, a little bit of homework, is to make sure that you really listen to each other. Just go ahead with talking, but not before you summarize what the other person is saying. And to be fair, I had the biggest CSO, the senior managers, crying in a room because finally they had the feeling, or they felt that the other persons were listening, and they could finally share their story, and that were really people were understanding what they're saying. So it's a very small stick, but very powerful. So that is my homework to the listeners.
I love that. I love that. I love that, especially you pointed out that most of the times people are just waiting for their turn to speak, as in they're already like thinking, what is it that I'm going to respond, instead of just listening.
Exactly, exactly. And that's not a bad thing. It's just it is our brain is wired, but you can train it.
Exactly. All right. Final question. What is the one thing or one truth, maybe, that you know today that you wish you could have told your younger self 5 or 10 years ago?
The connection with other people and what you learn from them is much more important than you might think. I started as an entrepreneur 8 years ago, and I was combining that with employment at a bigger company. And a couple of years, I decided to just, go 100% for my company. And there I was, sitting in this room, just waiting for the magic that happens. And it didn't happen. And I got so many valuable insights and connections, and also at the end, assignments, because I had beautiful conversations just like you, and getting to know people behind LinkedIn. behind the beautiful story on social media. And that is where the magic happens. And that is when people see you as a real trusted advisor, they will remind you when someone needs help, or a certain expertise. So the real connection with people is much more important than all the views and the likes on social media.
I absolutely agree. I'm just going to add from my personal perspective because I think everybody knows that I've been trying different things. I've been obviously, going after like, okay, how can I get the most likes, blah, blah. Actually, it doesn't matter because the few messages that I would receive sometimes from my post, people saying, thanks so much for posting this, just really resonated or helped me get through the day, etc. And then I would actually engage into conversation. A couple of conversations from something that you shared is a lot more valuable than the amount of those likes that people are just, put just, oh yeah, scroll through, bum, 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 bum.
And then you're not learning from each other.
Exactly. Speaking
Beautiful
of,
question.
thank you. Speaking of, that's how Cynthia and I met, and this is part of me actually creating a relationship, not just hitting people up because they have a very nice profile on LinkedIn or have an X amount of followers. Actually, I saw your post on LinkedIn because somebody from my network liked or commented, and it was about the player, young basketball player.
Oh,
Uh,
Jamal.
Yes, when other players have basically kicked the trash can, and he was the one who actually picked up the trash, and I thought it was a very powerful example.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that is a really powerful example. And if I may ask, if someone is listening or watching this and knows Jamal, please let him know that thousands of people were sending me messages about how beautiful that action was. So I want to give him all the credits because that was a very, very powerful thing to do, and it was a beautiful moment because I don't have so many posts on LinkedIn with so many likes. So I was a little bit surprised as well. And I realized I posted that on LinkedIn just a couple of hours after the outcomes of the elections in the US. And I assume and I hope that, those actions of, people and athletes like Jamal inspire people that the world is just still full of beautiful people. So I was really glad that a lot of people liked it and liked his video. So if anyone knows him, just say he had a lot of extra fans and viewers around the globe. So all the credits to him.
Beautiful reminder. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they would like, for whatever reason, just have a chat or maybe hire you as a for cultural transformation?
Haha, good one. Yeah, I would like to say I have a valuable connection, but it's quite difficult. But send me a message on LinkedIn. I think that's the fastest way. And like I said, and that is how we get to know each other as well. But just I'm very happy to have an online coffee and hear about your story. So just find me on LinkedIn, give me a message, and we'll do an inspiration session. And we'll use the talking stick.
I love that. All right, Cynthia, thank you so much. And we'll tag your profile in the description so it will be easy for people to find you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking those beautiful questions and sharing your insights as well. Very inspirational.
Thank you. Let's